I felt humble and powerful and so much more trust in life and really connected to a peace and a stillness. Um, and that said, I had like pretty far on the positive spectrum of
Hmm.
actual experience with a medicine. Like my teacher likes to say that you really won't know what you got from it for until 6 months have passed. Um, so don't even start to try and evaluate. If as you come out, you feel like you got something amazing, because it might take you 6 months to even see what it was. And also that like these deep things you want to heal, like you're not here to have a good experience. You're here to heal the stuff. And so if it's uncomfortable for 20, 30 hours, but you get to have your whole life change, isn't that worth it?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Love, Loss, and Hallucinations. Before I introduce my guest, I do just want to put out there that we will be discussing Iboga quite a bit, which is a very strong and long lasting psychedelic. We do get into some of the risks that might come with using Iboga or its derivative, Ibogaine. And just to clarify, there are risks associated with both if proper precautions are not taken. And just so everyone knows, this content is for educational and harm reduction purposes only. We do not promote or support illegal activity, the sale or use of restricted substances, or the use of associated tools or accessories. This is not medical advice, and definitely consult a qualified professional for your health decisions. My guest this week, I've known her for a couple years, and I'm excited to have her on the show. Her name is Rachel Zurer. She is a somatic and leadership coach working with sensitive business owners who want deeper meaning in their lives. Previously an entrepreneur who built her own six-figure copywriting business by following her own bliss, she is now a certified Big Leap coach, shadow constellation facilitator, and biodynamic cranial sacral practitioner. Her work is also shaped by years of deep study with the Conscious Leadership Group. Rachel is joining us from Lafayette, Colorado. And welcome to the show, Rachel. Good to
Thank you, Scott.
see your lovely face across the screen over there in Colorado.
Hmm. Yeah, appreciate it.
Well, I'm extra excited to have you on the show this morning, because I got your newsletter this morning. And in the newsletter, you mentioned that you just completed this week a 2-year journey that started with a retreat that involved a shaman and powerful plant medicine. And in the newsletter, you said you would spare us the details, but let's get into the details.
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess my first question around that, before we kind of get into more specifics of what it involved and all that sort of thing, is I'm wondering if there was a match at that time 2 years ago that lit your fire to go on this particular retreat.
Yeah, I would say the match actually started maybe 6 months before the
Mm,
retreat. Um,
mhm.
and it was a small spark like some of the big ones are. But I just I had taken pretty much like 2 full years off of doing any medicine work of any kind. I was fully sober for a bunch of reasons. And I had this intuition that it might be time to start doing deep work with psychedelics and plant medicine again. And I
Mm.
had a good friend who was in town who I know leads some medicine stuff. I had never worked with her, but I just happened to I was sitting next to her and I had this thought and I said, "I think maybe my next medicine thing's supposed to be with you." And what she said, she was like, "Well, I'm not leading anything soon, but my teacher is coming to town and doing
Mm.
his work, which is with a medicine called Iboga." And I hadn't really considered it up till then, but I took that little sign from the universe and ran with it. And his next retreat I wasn't available for, but the one after that felt very called to be there. And that
Mm.
was, yeah, basically 2 years ago, exactly this week as we're talking. And it feels I can just look at the last 2 years of I ended up working with this teacher for a lot of the last 2 years and with the medicines he serves, and it's been quite a journey, and I feel some kind of, actually feels like the completion really started to happen in December. That was the last retreat I did with him, and I feel like I felt a sense of some of a cycle completing. It's not like I won't work with him again. I actually don't know what the future holds, but there was just
Right.
but But this week, I'm very aware that it's 2 years since the journey kind of kicked off in earnest, and yeah, I had no idea. I thought I was just going on one retreat, and it turned into being part of 9 in 2 years with
Wow.
her. So it was a lot.
Wow.
It has been a
Yeah,
lot,
that is a
and it
lot.
may be a lot
And
more. This might just be the beginning. I have no idea where I'm going with it, but
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm really intrigued that it happened to involve Iboga because, I've mentioned that a couple previous times on this podcast. And, I've yet to talk, you're the first person I've talked to who's actually used it and used it more than once, even
hmm,
better. And why I'm so happy to have you on this podcast is because, Iboga it's sort of, it's getting traction, interestingly enough, in the veteran and uh, conservative side of the world because of how it is helping veterans with PTSD. And that is often with Ibogaine, which is kind of a derivative of Iboga that we can talk about. But
hmm.
it's also known that Iboga or Ibogaine can also probably the one plant medicine that can really cause serious harm if precautions aren't taken. She, for those of you not watching, Rachel is like, "Man, I don't know about that,"
Well,
but
this one, I wouldn't say it's the only one. Like all any with
ah,
anything, the difference between medicine and a poison is the dose. So
yeah,
as with any literally anything, salt and water, that
right,
is true
right.
of. So I just want to like it. That didn't resonate
I
with me.
I hear what you're saying. Yes, too much of anything can be bad.
Yes.
Yeah, and my one of my the first time I talked about Iboga was with a guest, Albert Strasser, who his brother had gone to Europe somewhere and went into this whole heart failure situation and ended up in a coma and is now in a vegetative state, unfortunately. Um, so, it's great to have you on to get like a whole different perspective. I just want to hear more about your experience. Um, you know, you felt this as a sign from the universe that to try this, and maybe it might just be helpful, because I'm not that familiar with it myself. Like, what was your first experience like? And I know they're long experiences, so we could probably talk a whole hour just about that first experience. But
Well, certainly yes. Yeah, and I'm sort of laughing. I think there's a couple disclaimers I want to give. Like, I am speaking entirely from my personal experience. I have more than the average person a personal experience, but I don't serve this medicine. I'm not a doctor. So I just
Mhm,
want to give those caveats that, this is one
appreciate that.
explorer's journey reporting back, and take it as that. Um
Yes.
but for me, yeah, it was so okay. So one thing is, you mentioned this already, but it feels just important to say is that um, my teacher likes to say that Ibogaine is Iboga's bad PR agent, and he doesn't really mind, right? He doesn't really mind. He just trusts that the people who are supposed to find it will. But that Ibogaine and Iboga, it's most likely if you've ever heard anything about Iboga, you've probably actually heard about Ibogaine, which is the
Mm.
extract, the derivative. I like to say coffee versus caffeine extract, or coca leaves versus cocaine extract. Like, if
Mm.
you extract something in it, and just as examples, where it's kind of intuitive, like, oh right, it's different when you extract it. Um, and so all of the work I've ever done with this teacher has been with the full root bark. So iboga is a bark. It's the bark of a root of a shrub that grows in Gabon in Africa, and we work with like literally sawdust. It's not sexy. It's And it takes a long time of eating sawdust little bit by little bit to get your full dose, and then it's a very
Wow.
slow acting thing. So, again, this teacher that I've worked with, and he's the only person I've worked with Iboga. He holds a 6-day retreat, and so there's a little bit of preparation for a day or two. Then we go into the journey, and the journey itself is at least is 30 hours long. It's like
Wow.
it's a long meditation. Everyone's in a room together, each on their own mattress. He holds mostly silence, so you're in your own world,
Mm.
and there's the shaman and then his team there watching the room, tending to people. I've been on that team a number of times, which is part of how I've been through that many retreats. I wasn't a participant every time. Yeah, and then there's a few days of integration too, because it's quite a big journey.
Yeah.
And and everyone's on their own journey. They set their own intentions with this particular teacher. He uses a body check system to help people like really, really intuit and work with their own body to get their own dose. So everyone's taking
Hmm.
a different amount. There's not like, and it's not based on your body weight or on some idea of what's right. It really, really is based on um, kind of what the individual's system is calling for. And for me, what do I want to say? I took we had been another thing I like about the person I work with is that he has you doing microdoses for actually ideally weeks leading up to it. So
Mm.
very, very small
Of
amount, just
Iboga.
of Iboga, just a little pinch, but it means you're starting to like get to know the spirit of the medicine and the way it works. And one of the things that it's really well known for is it helps you see your patterns. And so you
Mm.
start seeing that too and see and then change them. It's just one
Even
of the
as a
ways
microdose.
it's for many people as a microdose, kind of the things you do, you start to do more. They get
Mm.
exaggerated. You start to like, so they get so big you can kind of see them. I mean, both the effect of the medicine and the effect of the microdose is pretty individual. I've sat this retreat twice and assisted it 5 times. So I've been through this particular container with 7 times. So I've witnessed a lot of people, um, and it's like there's like a flavor that's true for everybody, but it's not nobody. Everyone has their own experience. It's a relationship, and so
Hmm.
I will say my first real journey. Um, for some people, it can be deeply arduous and challenging. I wouldn't say it wasn't challenging, but I never felt scared. I mean,
Mm.
I felt fear, like I felt myself working with the energy of fear,
Hmm.
but I said afterwards, I felt like I was surfing for just like 30 hours. Like it was wave after wave. And I was just like, I had it in me to meet it. And there was a lot of joy. There was a lot of laughter. There was a lot of turn on. There was a lot of grief. There was a lot of disgust. I mean, it was working
Wow.
with many emotions. It had many chapters. um, yeah, visions are quite common. I had quite a few visions. The very first vision I saw was, saw my own face and it was a little bit younger version of me mouthing the words. I didn't hear anything with my visions. I just saw her mouthing the words, "I love you," and I realized it was my higher self.
Mm.
Like that was just kind of that, and that was the very first sort of clear vision I have, and it felt
Wow.
like, and for me, I
Yep.
took my first cupful during the dosing time of the sawdust and lay back down, and it takes a while for the medicine to really build up, but for me, I lay back down and I had this sensation of roots growing out of my back into the ground.
Mm.
And the
Hmm.
Rising Appalachia song came into my head of I grow my roots down, 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 deep. And that just played in my head for the next 30 hours. And I really had this sense of connection to the void and something bigger than me.
Mm.
I
Well,
could
can
go
I
on.
ask
There was
you?
like
Can I
many, many
ask you quick?
experiences, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, yeah. Can I ask you? Like when that younger self version of yourself like showed up and like said "I love you" to you, like, um, I mean, to people who haven't done psychedelics before, they might be thinking, "Oh, well, that's cute, that's nice." But
Mhm.
I mean, how? And I know it's hard to convey, but like, how did that hit you in the moment?
Yeah, like that particular in the moment, I really felt I felt love, I felt joy, and I felt for me, it felt really like, it felt supportive. It felt like
Mm.
this sense of like a very supportive, like cheering family on the sidelines, like, "You got this, we're with you," that kind of vibe. Um, Because I
Which is
did like
lovely as you're first going into at the beginning of a 30-hour experience to start with
yeah,
that is
yeah, and
nice.
I had some big intentions, and another thing that Iboga is pretty well known for is, the way it helps you work with the
Mm.
ancestors, the ancestral plane, ancestral trauma. And so, I don't want to make it sound all sunshine and roses. Like I also spent a chunk of my that journey like working with ancestral Holocaust trauma. I have
Mm.
Jewish lineage. I One of my visions was I watched my own birth and then spent many hours working through birth trauma in my own body. Um but it was real. It felt like some things that are fairly common for people is that the medicine will meet you. It meets people in very different ways. Sometimes it can be very playful. People tend to
Mm,
find it quite collaborative. Not everybody,
mm,
again, people have different experiences. Um, and it really it helps you face and heal and get to the root of and feel your way through and move your way through things that are really hard to get to otherwise.
mm, mm. Would you mind sharing, I guess, like, what some of your intentions were that first time?
Yeah. Um, trying to I know what my top intention was. I just put it in my newsletter. This is today. My like number one was a desire to know God. That was
Mm.
like which I didn't grow up with much of a religious upbringing and that, me from 10 years ago would have been like, "What?" That's a weird intention. Um, on a more personal level, it was stuff like, healing, like, coming into my full power in my career and in my relationships. I actually have my intentions in the other room, like, I could find them. I've been in so many ceremonies since then, it's actually kinda hard for me to remember what my first ones all were.
Yeah.
Um, definitely healing some lineage stuff. Like, the gist of it was, like, coming into my full power and joy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And by the end of that first 30 hours, where were you with those intentions?
Ugh. I was in, I was in a state of bliss, I think is fair to
Mm,
say. Like, I was, um, mm, yeah, coming out, I felt humble and powerful and so much more trust in life and, really connected to a peace and a stillness. Um, and that said, I had, like, pretty far on the positive spectrum of
mhm.
actual experience with a medicine. Like, my teacher likes to say that you really won't know what you got from it for until 6 months have passed. So don't even start to try and evaluate. If as you come out, you feel like you got something, amazing, because it might take you 6 months to even see what it was. And also that, like, these deep things you wanna heal, like, you're not here to have a good experience, you're here to heal the stuff. And so if it's uncomfortable for 20, 30 hours, but you get to have your whole life change, isn't that worth it? And so I just wanna caveat that, like, I I've heard plenty of people have experiences that were as pleasant as mine, but I've
Mhm.
also witnessed a lot of people have experiences that were much less pleasant than mine and still be really glad they did it, wanna come back, you know, be willing to do it again, have unequivocal, like, positive regard for the medicine, and then also, like, it was kinda hellish for 30 hours, and that I just wasn't hellish for me. It wasn't. And I think that may be part of, who I was coming into it, and also just, grace. Like,
Great. Well, do you feel like it helped? I mean, I know from knowing you previously, like, you've sort of been on this journey and doing work around, personal growth and sort of just finding more wholeness within yourself for a while before doing this
yeah.
journey, and I'm imagining that helped make it a more
Ab
positive experience.
Absolutely. I had the experience of like, "Oh my god, every single tool that is in this quite extensive toolkit of mine is, like, coming into play, like, I've been in training for this moment my whole life," and it really did, like, I had so much of the somatic tools and the consciousness tools and the mindset tools and the dealing with life tools that I brought in quite a toolkit with me,
Mhm.
and, that certainly helped me, and I've also seen people with pretty extensive toolkits have a rough time. So it's
Yeah.
also it's
Yeah.
like it's really just the intersection of, like, what needs work and what your intentions are and how and what the medicine how where the medicine brings you. Like, I can't
Mhm.
pretend to understand why it's fun for some people and miserable for others.
No, it is a mystery for sure, and I've had both sides as well, not with Iboga, of course, but, and so after that first journey, you said you've done 2 yourself.
Mhm.
What did you come out immediately, were you like, "Okay, I need to do that again," or were you, like,
No.
6 months later, sorta like your, mentor was saying, like, "Wait 6 months and we'll see where we're at," that sort of situation?
I came out being like, "That was amazing. I wish I could wave a magic wand and have everyone do it." The
Mm.
way that it helped me understand my own mind and consciousness was just, like, unbelievable.
Mm.
So I came out and very enthusiastic about it, but no, I had no idea. I mean, I was like, "Oh, and this teacher is amazing. I really like him." But then that was that. Like, I kinda put it down. It was maybe about 6 months later that asked me to assist another retreat,
Mm.
and I felt into it, and I was like, "Yeah, that feels exciting." And then he has a level 2 retreat that works with different medicines and with a different intention that I then did, and it was there after I did those back to back, assisting where you have a bit of Iboga, but definitely way less, and you're in a different role. You're sitting up watching the room and in motion
Yeah.
on the medicine. It's quite a different experience. And then this next level of a journey, which I could talk about too. But I basically I felt like, oh gosh, I'm still locked in my mind in this particular way. Like, and he was like, yeah, come get another scrub of your mind. And
Mm.
so, um,
Well,
I
how do you feel like your mind and consciousness shifted from that first one before and after? Like, what did you learn about that, I guess, at least for yourself?
from the first one before and after,
Yeah.
yeah. I had pulled a tarot card. I'm pretty into tarot too, before I went in, and it was for anyone who knows tarot, it was the Eight of Swords from a deck that it it looks like the card in this deck of mine, it looks like a rib cage made out of metal,
Mm.
and, and it's about the torture of the mind is kinda what the card is about, how we sort of keep ourselves imprisoned in our own crap. And in the journey, that card, the image of the card kept coming back to me, and I kept thinking of it as the mind cage.
Mm.
And I came to understand, like, through many, many hours of playing with it, but just so much of the way my mind keeps me out of the present. I mean, it's not just me. It's all of us. Um,
Right.
I came to understand a lot more about helping my mind and body work as a team, and then also, like, really demoting the mind into a
Mm.
place of more aligned position. Um, Being more willing to ignore it, more willing to, like, just step out of a story. Just be
Mm.
like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's just the lens I'm seeing, that's just the story my mind's telling me," and just let it go and step out of it. And so, my friends, I have at this point quite a community of people who have done Iboga, and, we're always rooting for a certain other of our friends to get willing to go in because people become a lot less mindy after
Mm.
they go through. So again, it's a little hard for me to, like, parse out where I've gotten with it 2 years later from after that very first time to take the snapshot, but I can say that, like, from the outside, people there's more access to joy often.
Mm.
There's a
Mhm.
lot more relaxation. Like, they get a little bit just, like, less caught in the frenzy of the day to day and a bit more just, like, there's more space.
Mm.
I would say that was true for me, um, and
Well, yeah, and
increased.
I feel
Mhm.
in our worlds that we're born into and raised into, it's so much about thinking and the brain and doing and, allowing the brain to control where you're at, what you're feeling and how you're thinking. And, we're not taught that, oh, just because you feel it doesn't mean it's actually real. And then to allow, as you're saying, to have that kind of rewiring upstairs
Yeah,
allows you to be more in your body and connected to your heart and, um, you know, just more present,
yeah.
right? And
Uh, I also just actually, I'm just remembering, like, the biggest, sort of most obvious thing that, like, changed for me afterwards, which
mm,
was very, like, it wasn't what I was planning, and it was kind of strange and sideways, but it was big, was I had been a vegetarian for 30 years. I was a vegetarian starting when I was 11, and I went in at 41, and I came out ravenous for animal protein in a way that I had literally couldn't remember ever feeling in my whole life.
wow.
And I, after that first journey, started eating fish and chicken again. And then after my second after I assisted, the next time I went in with it, I kind of went in with an intention to clear anything else in the way of eating other animals for a variety
Mhm.
of reasons. Sorry to my old vegan friends, we can have a talk anytime, but, um, and it was like it was a huge shift for me. I had been in such aversion, and I didn't see it as a problem. I didn't go in with an intention to heal anything about it. Like, it was just, it was fine. I've been vegetarian for 30 years. I'm a great vegan cook. It's like
Yeah.
there wasn't a problem. I didn't have an intention around it. But the way I understand it was I healed so much trauma and disgust in my system, both
Mm.
from birth stuff and Holocaust stuff, that whatever had me in total hard no to eating animals, just disappeared, and something more authentically from my animal body, came out and has been the norm ever since. And I
Wow.
mean, that is the thing that my mother was like, "What happened to you?" Like,
And how has it been since eating meat, like,
I
body-wise?
it's been great. I mean,
Yeah.
I just wanna say, I completely think you can be incredibly healthful on a vegetarian diet. Elephants are vegetarian, blah, blah, blah. Like, elephants are vegan, I like 30 years. I was an
Yeah.
athlete. It was great. And I feel a lot more vibrant personally. Like,
Yeah.
there's an openness to embracing the whole of me and the whole of my being, and even the parts of me that might be a little darker or like
Mm.
more wild, that I think it's possible to have those while not eating meat. But for me, it's coincided in reclaiming some of my wild animal too. And
Mm. I
I
love
feel
that.
better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would just mirror that. I was also a vegetarian when I was a serious athlete, and it was only towards the very end of my career that I started to eat meat. And again, you are right. Like, you can be an incredible athlete and be a vegetarian. Dave Scott won multiple Ironman races as a vegetarian, which is part of the inspiration for why I was doing it. But once I started eating meat, I did feel healthier and stronger, and I did race better. So it was like, oh, I wish I had probably would have been a couple places higher in those last couple years. But that's just an aside I just wanted to put out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I mean, for
so
me,
you,
it was like reclaiming some disowned part of me is kind of what it felt like.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that I hadn't been like missing, but once I got it back,
Mm.
I was like, "Ooh, I like having this."
Yeah, exactly. That's well said. So through this initial process, you sort of lost being a vegetarian, and you lost some, if not all of that cage that was kind of around your mind.
Some, some.
Um, stop.
It No, I just said some, not all. Like,
Oh,
it
some.
definitely
Oh,
wasn't all.
some. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
some. Okay, and w- through this 2-year process, what else do you feel like you've lost?
Oh, man. Okay. I mean, this is starting to get even more into my own sort of cosmology and understanding of things, and it's like, your mileage may vary,
Yeah.
but I had huge essentially, after each of the times I sat with a full dose as a participant, as a fully in the intentions, not I mean, I got a lot out of assisting each time too, but, um, I had an enormous loss in my life follow right after that. you could there's no direct link to the Iboga at all, and
Mhm.
my experience with this medicine is it's often like stepping behind the matrix and rearranging the world a bit, and that it doesn't let unaligned things stay for very long. And
Mm.
so I feel a little like this is a very self-centered point of view on kind of some events that happened in my life. But right after within 6 weeks of the first, is that right? Yeah, less than 2 months after the first journey, I had an ex who took his own life,
Mm.
and it was
Ugh.
probably him, and our relationship was kind of the one of the biggest like loose ends in my life. And um we hadn't even been in communication in about a year. Like, it was there's no direct tie whatsoever. But I entered this, like, while I was in the integration of this Iboga ceremony, I entered this enormous grief portal of
Mm.
uh, grieving him, grieving our relationship. He had been dealing with some mental illness, and had to set a whole lot of boundaries with him in the lead up to the time. And so there was a way in which I was able to grieve the whole relationship, and the experience of being in deep relationship with somebody who I ended up having to cut off in such a painful way, choosing to. And yeah, I mean, it was a real extremely potent portal for me. And I feel cautious about, I mean, his life and his tragedy. It's like, how can I point to that's because of Iboga? But the timing certainly was that in the plot of my life, a very, very big question mark kind of came to a particular resolution that then sent me down a grief portal in
Mm,
a I spent months just letting myself um let it bring up everything it did. And I think actually this one is actually like, whether or not the fact of his suicide had anything to do with my medicine journeys or not, the depth I let it the depth that did hit me at, and the depth that it kind of pulled out every grief in my
mm,
body over a period of several months, and the tools I had to deal with it were all um certainly related to my medicine journey.
right.
So that was in 2024.
Right. You would have handled it or not been able to handle it as well or as deeply without having done this iboga beforehand
Yeah, I would have been a
or
very different
process it.
process,
Yeah.
and my tools for processing it would have been very different, and the way I let it shape and change me, I think, would have been very different, and I
Yeah.
suspect it would have. I mean, of course, I know it would have hit me deeply no matter what, but there was like a next level, like the soil was very loose, and I had been very tilled, and so, the soil of me, and so it was able to hit me extremely, extremely
Mm,
deeply,
yeah.
um, in a way that I just surrendered to. So, I essentially stopped doing. I kind of cleared my whole world for except for the very essential things to kind of keep my um, commitments I had to paying clients was like the only thing I did for like several months, and
Wow.
it was a grief sabbatical. It was very potent.
Yeah. Well, and how, if you don't mind saying, like, how
Mhm.
was it potent? Like, how did you come out the other side of that?
Yeah. Oh, such mystery. How did I come out the
Mm,
other that? Um. Hmm. I honestly don't even know quite what to say. Uh,
mm,
it's hard to see yourself in that way, and I mean, I think I guess one thing I can say, like, this wasn't right after it. This is sort of relates to another story of loss. I don't know how much we'll get into it, but I came out. I had that partner and I had had pregnancies together
mm,
that didn't we didn't go forward with. One of them we couldn't have, and I really felt connected to his lineage. Had his funeral through these souls that we conceived that had never been born. And
mhm,
there was something about that process that really started cracking open in me, like the question of a desire for motherhood.
mm.
Um, that was part of that grieving process. And I was 41. Like I'm 43 now. It's still an active question at the moment. But it's been very intertwined with these Iboga journeys for me. And
Yeah.
um that was that's one very concrete thing I can point to is like my heart cracked open to a possibility in a very of claiming something and letting myself want something in a very different way.
Mhm.
Um, how did the grief change me? Yeah, that one is hard to say. Sorry, I did not have a very satisfying
Yeah.
answer.
No, no, that's alright. No, it's continually evolving and processing, right? Um, and perhaps another way to approach that is, if you had a friend who is going through a similar
Mhm.
experience, like, how would you either, be there for them or, it's always hard to, like, give someone advice in that situation because everyone's so individual and how they process and handle grief. But um, I guess perhaps what did you learn from it that you might share?
Yeah, I mean, the words I would say are just like, "Let it have you." Like,
Mm,
I think, I had I had already, for some other reasons, kind of beginning what felt like an apprenticeship to grief about a year earlier through a breakup and just, like, getting it, and I discovered a bunch of really good books that I recommend to people pretty often around grief. There's 3 in particular that if you want me to share them, I'm happy
yeah,
to.
please. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
definitely.
Number 1, I literally keep a copy of this in a drawer so I can hand it to somebody in person if there's a big tragedy in someone's life, and I also have sent probably 10 copies to people around the world. It's a book called Prayers of Honoring Grief by
Mm,
Pixie Lighthorse. It's very short. It's brilliant and beautiful, and I just, like, I'll op in seasons of grief, I will just open to one. I've read it all the way through a few times too, but it's exquisite. So that's one.
okay.
The second 2 are a bit better known, probably. One is, The Wild Edge of Sorrow by Frances Weller.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Yes.
Yes. So that's a beautiful one, and I read that one first, maybe a year or 2 earlier, and then also, The Smell of Rain on Dust by Martine Bertel is also
uh,
a really beautiful book about grief. So those 2 I recommend to people, and then the Prayers of Honoring Grief, I keep on hand like Band-Aids. It's like my first aid for any tragedy that anyone's going through.
mm,
They're
mm.
so specific and potent and deep and beautiful, and it's just these short little prayers. So, um,
Wow. Okay. Well, those will be, well, I'll write about those in the show notes as well.
great.
But looping back to your 2-year journey here, um, what you mentioned it briefly, but was sort of the level 2 second time going in with the shaman that you work with?
Yeah, so that was at the end of so my first time was January 2024, and then in March, my ex took his life. Then I went back in late like, over Thanksgiving 2024, end of
Mm,
November, and was still wrestling with this question of, do I want motherhood? Um, I was in a partnership with a long distance partnership with a man who I loved a lot, but it was like he wasn't a clear yes to it. We didn't live in the same place. It was unclear how that was gonna resolve. Um, and I started to get clearer that it was something I really wanted to consider. It was these Iboga journeys kept, like, not letting me let go of the question. I had
mm,
and for context, I had decided in my early 30s when I was married that I wasn't gonna have kids. Like, I had come to peace with this identity of, like, no kid, adults, like, that was the plan. And I had returned to that identity many times, and then there was something in me that kept being like, "But are you sure?" Um, and I mean, yeah, so if I had, like, been really enthusiastic about having kids in my early 20s or in my 30s, I'm sure I would have, but I wasn't. But then this like thing started poking at me, and yeah, so I came back home from that second time as a participant and said to this man I was in a relationship with, like, "Hey, I'd really like us to start considering this question of, like, if this is something we wanna do together."
mhm.
And then 3 days later, the first time I ovulated after the medicine cycle, I was totally freakishly by accident pregnant.
Wow.
Um, yes. Which to me, I'm sort of like, "Iboga, hey." Like again, totally not linear, but, like, there's this force working in my life.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very potent, radical, clear, clarifying experience for both of us. And the heartbreaking part of it was for me, it clarified, like, ooh, I want this. For
Mm.
him, for him and between us, it clarified, like, this relationship
Oh, no.
is not viable.
Yeah.
And he was a really hard no to having a kid with me, to me having a kid without him. So I was then with the choice of I was going, to us staying together. It sort of got very clear that we just weren't aligned and that he'd been trying to kind of meet me in the level of relationship I wanted, but that it just wasn't actually true for him.
Yeah.
And so a year ago now, I was in the process of going through like this relationship I'd been investing in and on and off for 3 years, clearly coming to a very disappointing end, and then being 42 and pregnant, and either having to do it by myself in the middle of a breakup with a partner who absolutely did not want me to, was like such a
Mm,
hard no with that child, or choosing to end the pregnancy, which is what I
yeah.
chose,
Ugh.
which we chose, I chose. I mean, it was really devastating. So yeah, that was like, so it, next, that was my next pretty radical grief portal.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm,
with, yeah, sort of getting clear, like, oh, this is something I want, but I just wasn't in a spot where the leap of doing it on my own felt like in those circumstances felt like something I was willing to choose, and
yeah.
which I have compassion for. And also, yeah, I mean, even talking about it, I've talked about it a lot, but like this is the most publicly I've talked about it. This is pretty publicly. So,
Yeah.
I feel it's a really tender, painful. It was so painful. And then, so we ended the pregnancy, and then 2 weeks later, like, ended the relationship. And the
Mm,
beginning of 2025 was um a huge, huge loss portal for me. And again, it was
yeah.
just like surrender, 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 surrender. And at the same time, to like bring it back to the medicine work and the medicine, it was I also really feel some gratitude around my experience of Iboga not letting me stay in something that wasn't aligned for any
Mm,
longer.
mhm.
And we could have stayed for a long time. It was like things were, in retrospect, I see all the holes glaringly, but we loved each other a lot. And it was, and we were both trying really hard to cling to something that just didn't quite fit. And um yeah, there was sort of a swiftness of clarity and rearrangement that I have seen happen in other people's lives too. And again, it's always, you can never, like, you can't cause and affect it, but like
Yeah.
someone's
Yeah.
business partner dies 2 weeks later, someone else, their lease ends and they need to move, and they're, it's like life has this way of like kicking you out of the nest. And for me, that's how I understand this experience,
Mhm.
especially as deep as I have been in this work, is that it was sort of like a harsh wind blowing through in a way that was very painful, but that I also like had a rightness to it.
Right. Right. Um, yeah, well, just want to recognize, like, thank you for sharing that. And, I can still see it in your face and hear it in your voice and your body. There's still, some heaviness there, understandably, but also, there's some gratitude. It's one of those paradoxes, right? And, I'm just having gone through all this, intense loss and, transitions in life. And, along with this big plant medicine journeys. Um, I'm just curious if, you did get that initial intention of to know God.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say it hasn't, it's been kind of the many factors coming together, but my experience is absolutely like I feel like I have a, this is not just from Iboga, it's partly from Iboga. It's also from working with Bufo in tandem with Iboga, which is a
Mm.
whole nother psychedelic we could be talking about. But
Yeah,
and also my own heart and study and consciousness work and all of that. But
of course.
um yeah, I really do. I really, really, really have this just like a very felt sense of, my intention for the second to last ceremony I assisted, which was just this past November, so a few months ago, was to trust the benevolence of existence in every fractal.
Mm,
like that's landing more and more. And then the last one I did was about like letting that it land in my body and help me relax. And there's just a way that I not in some kind of dramatic way, but I feel like I really have a very like a inner knowing from the inside sense of the nature of the universe.
Mm.
And it and it aligns with many, 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 many spiritual teachings. I'm sort of like, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, we all get it. Okay,
Yeah,
we're all
that makes
trying to point
sense.
at the
Yeah, that
thing."
one.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah, lots of denominations, lots of mystical traditions,
Yep.
I'm just sort of like and the work of remembering it is, like, still a daily moment to moment
Mhm.
practice.
Yeah.
But it I went from being somebody who had not quite an idea of what that would mean to feeling just like, "Oh, absolutely know what that means. I
Mm.
absolutely know what that means," and it's just the practice of remembering it every moment.
Yeah. Well, and I would hope and imagine that perhaps that helps with these losses as well that you've been having to go through and
It does.
process. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and, in that first ceremony, and this is gonna sound really crazy to some people, but, like, I was working a lot of Holocaust trauma
Mhm.
along with my ancestors. I come from Jewish background. Ancestors were certainly in that. So I'm kind of
Yes.
one of the most this like for me, it's always been a symbol of just like the worst of humanity and the worst of evil and the worst of pain that we can inflict on each other. And um, the phrase that kind of came through for me in that journey as I was working with all that and within this intention of wanting to know God was this phrase, even when you don't understand, you're still safe. And
Mm.
and
You're
and,
still
so
still safe.
you're still safe. Even when you don't
Mm.
understand, you're safe. And this idea of like even the worst things that we can imagine humanity has done to each other. There's some like it's all held within this bigger net of safety. And
Yeah.
so for my own sort of like I don't want to minimize them. They're not small tragedies, but they are compared to, I live a pretty abundant life
Yeah.
compared to some of the things that people have to deal with. And even it's like this too. Like, can I trust? Can I be the awareness in the unknown? Can I be the awareness having this experience? Can I trust even this, even this, even this? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and having that awareness and trying to maintain that awareness, how does that circle around to, what you bring to your clients and um how it's affected your interactions with them and the way you coach them?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't a coach before. When I started this journey, I was a copywriter. I've been training to be a coach in a variety
Okay.
of ways for over a decade. But it was in the middle of all of this that I launched my coaching business, and I think a lot of it
Mm,
is because I deeply trust my own presence, and I deeply trust myself to see through the illusion of powerlessness,
mhm,
with people, and so I don't talk
mm,
like, I imagine that most of my clients, if they hear this interview, will be surprised to hear a
yeah.
lot of this. It doesn't come front and center.
Mhm.
I don't do medicine work with people. I do, Zoom coaching. Um, and I definitely believe we are all powerful beings and that sort of the presence and knowing of that is one of the world's most transformative forces. And so I super trust that and I kind of am in prayer anytime I'm with, again, I don't talk about this much, but anytime I'm with a client, I'm essentially in the prayer of sort of God meeting God and like
Mm,
wanting to be the conduit for whatever is rightful for them and them having the experience of more and more alignment and power and joy in their lives. And um, these things that I've learned from my journeys, I bring into my days and my moments, and a lot of them really just help me be more present. And I really think presence is the that anything met with enough presence will transform.
yeah.
And I've been in a practice of cultivating my own capacity, growing. I mean, there's plenty of room to grow, but growing my own capacity for presence over many years, but this medicine path has been a huge part of it. So I think that
Right.
um, that's part of what I bring that people don't have any would never articulate. They're just sort of like, they know the tools we use or the questions I ask them, but
Hmm.
there's sort of like a feel or a special sauce that they um, benefit from and would have no idea why.
Right.
But that's how I
Right.
understand it.
Well, yeah, and it absolutely makes sense, at least to me, that, having gone through all this yourself and, you know, found this deeper sense of joy and I imagine love. We haven't really mentioned love too much here, but I know that's all in this special sauce and
It's
presence
all
that
love.
it's all love, right? Exactly. So having all of that mixed and holding that yourself is going to radiate out to whoever you're working with, or even just in a day to day existence, in ways that whoever you're talking to is not really going to, as you said, be able to point at that specifically, but it's just almost more of a feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just like I'm certainly not a fully enlightened being, that's for sure. I have all the human things still, and, like, they do feel lighter. They feel thinner than they
Mm,
used to. I feel in a, um I get caught for less but for less long. I get caught but less fully in taking it all so seriously.
yeah, yeah. Well, before this has been wonderful. And before I get to the last three, sort of like quick, sort of more quicker questions,
Mhm.
um, just where's the best place for people to discover more about you and what you are doing?
Yeah. Well, my website is wildgenius.com. That's the name of my coaching business. About reclaiming wildness in yourself and your own zone of genius. And so you can find kind of everything else from there, but I'm pretty active on both LinkedIn and Instagram with very different content on them. And as we've talked a few times about my weekly newsletter, we're on each other's weekly newsletters. We have been for a long time. Started how we stayed in touch after meeting years ago. But I send a weekly Friday. It's called the Magic Words of the Week, and it's about a word or a phrase that I think will help you thrive in your life and business. And I was a professional writer for many years before I became a coach, and so I think that shows. People seem to like it. So
Yes. Well, and I love your newsletter. I was thinking about it as I was reading it today, and it's sort of like, David White has put out that book Consolations and
I
then
love that book.
Consolations 2. It's sort of like the original Consolations, in my opinion, because you're taking a word or a phrase and you're doing some reflection on it and taking it deeper. And it's a wonderful newsletter. Highly, highly recommend it. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got that in, and it's obvious, you just love words. So there's another.
I do love words. My copywriting business, which still like vaguely exists. If you need copywriting, we can talk, I guess too. But it's not the main thing I'm up to these days. I do have one launch plan, but that's called Magic Words Marketing because I just words and magic.
Words
And
and magic.
mhm,
Yeah, I mean that's what we've been creating right here in this last hour.
mhm,
Words and magic, right?
mhm.
Yeah. So okay, last three questions, and yeah, I would love to talk about Bufo and 5-MeO. So that's, I guess we'll have to do this again at some point.
Part two at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yes, so last three questions. The first one is, what is you know, a hallucination, a vision, in whatever way you wanted to define that, even a dream, that you've had in the last year that has been meaningful?
Hmm. We have had so many.
Yeah. And it could
um,
also be like you thought something was gonna be one way and it turned out to be something completely different, that's
yeah. What's coming, this is kind of a simple one. I have like I said, I have many, but, there was a moment within the last year where I had it like, my teacher and I had had kind of a rough experience together, and we needed to repair, and it was unclear whether I was gonna come back into the medicine, and I had a dream where Iboga just called me back so clearly.
Mm,
Like, I could feel um, my connection with the medicine and my love of being part of it, and it was so such a clear call. And then I went back and things have been great ever since. So like it was really, I felt really grateful
Mm,
to have it be
yeah.
so obviously like, no, no, just here, do this. So
Oh, that's great. Do you just quickly, would you say that Iboga is like what I say about ayahuasca and my experiences with that is like I would never really encourage anyone to do it, but if they feel pulled or called to do it, I would definitely say you should do it.
yeah, I mean, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it. Let's
Yeah.
just call it. Yes, it's a good
Yeah.
way to put it. If you feel the call, trust it. If you feel the call and you're scared, trust it.
That's normal.
Yeah. And if you're just, there's an important person in my life who I would love to have sit he just keeps telling me like, I'll come when I'm called. And I'm like, can't freaking argue with that. Great.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll call you or it won't. We each have our
Fair,
own
fair.
paths. So
Yep, yep, exactly. Okay, second question. We something that we haven't talked about, I guess, and this could be good or bad, is what's something you have lost in the last 12 months?
yeah. I mean, I would s- I what's something I have lost in the last 12 months? Well, we did talk about one of the losses. I lost a
Yeah,
relationship. I lost
yeah,
uh I want to say it. Yeah. But I think actually like what came to mind first was I also as I sort of stepped into this launching this coaching business in a little less than a year ago, I was still doing a lot of copywriting and I lost 2 out of 3 of my long-term copywriting clients, and it's been
mm,
the sort of thing where I've also gotten to just trust that like, well, that wasn't the timeline I would have liked, but the timeline I'm getting, and it's giving me a way awesomer fire under my butt to really throw my whole heart into building this new thing and to showing up
mm.
in this new identity. And so, I lost the safety net of my old identity. Mhm.
Wow,
In a way that,
wow.
like, I'm in the practice of being more grateful than scared about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say that's, like, double-edged, like, a lot of excitement and also, like, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely part of my ego that's like, "Hey, hey,
Yeah.
I didn't know that wasn't my plan." And
Yeah,
then the
yeah.
trust me that's just like, "Okay, well, this is what's happening, so here we go."
Yeah, let's go. Um, amazing. And last one, what are you loving right now?
Mm. Oh my god, so many things too. I'm loving a lot. Um I'm having a rekindled love affair with meditation lately.
Mm,
I like first started meditating over a decade. This is what I was writing about in my newsletter this week. I first started meditating like a decade ago and meditated every day for years and was like kind of a dork about it for a long time. But then I got like a little less strict in my practice and I would go, sometimes a couple of weeks without sitting and I'm just like been using a new app that's like the Zen Master that has this like just like progression and it feels really fun and I'm just like letting when I first started meditating, it felt like dessert. It felt like, "Oh my god, I get to pause for this time during the
right.
day and, like, get out of the tyranny of my mind," and, like, it felt so pleasurable, and I'm, like, loving letting it feel that pleasurable again and letting it
Mm,
matter as a practice for me, so I'm back to being
yeah,
much more committed to it for the last few months, and it's feeling so good.
beautiful. What was the app called? Zen Master?
It's
Or
called The Way.
The Way?
The
Okay.
way yeah, and
All right.
it's a particular Zen master who just, like, has this it's like I think it's like 900, like, it's like but they're all in a sequence. So you just all you do is just the next one, the next one, the next one. It's like
Oh,
having your own
wow.
Zen teacher, and I've never really been a Zen student, but I like him. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'm intrigued. I will
Yeah.
probably check that out myself.
Yeah, a
But,
person I respect a lot is, like, recommended it to me, and I've been into it. So,
nice.
yeah.
Cool. All right. We're all going to become Zen masters here, and it's going to be amazing. Well, Rachel, again, thank you for being open and authentic with your story. And it's been a wonderful hour of learning, really, and just getting deeper. And, always appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Appreciate all the depth of conversations that you're holding space.
Mm,
And
wonderful.
yeah.
Well, till next time.
Yes, thank you so much.
And thanks to all of you out there who spent your last hour listening. I hope you found it as informative and deeply touching as I did. On next week's episode, I have none other than Hamilton Souther joining me. And Hamilton, I met back in 2006 when he was just sort of getting Blue Morpho going down in the Amazon jungle. He is a maestro medico vegetalista and a pioneer of the psychedelic renaissance. His story is amazing. What he is doing down in the Amazon with ayahuasca is amazing. And I say that from personal experience. So it's going to be a good one. Join us for that. And in the meantime, if you enjoyed the podcast, like it, share it, comment on it, all those wonderful things so we can help build this community together. Thanks, everyone, and I will talk to you next week.